Ladies and gentlemen, my name's Paul. Hopefully you're having an amazing day. By golly, there's a lot of stuff happening in tech right now, isn't there? We're going to discuss the RTX 4060's kind of actually lower than expected performance targets in just a moment, along with Nvidia essentially confirming the announcement date for the RTX 4070 Ti, the GPU formerly known as the RTX 4080 12GB. But perhaps the most interesting thing to me anyway is AMD coming out swinging with the Ryzen 7000 series by releasing new SKUs at a much lower price point. And we're going to get into all of that after this message from the video sponsor. If you're running a copy of Windows 10 which isn't activated, of course, not only do you have to worry about the missing customization options, but there's also that annoying Windows desktop watermark reminding you to activate. Today's video is sponsored by whokeys.com, and they have an excellent price on Windows 10 Professional as well as home keys. Yeah, and they also of course sell games. I've bought a few Windows 10 keys with my own personal account to test everything was legit and worked in preparation for this sponsored video. You can pick up one of their keys for 25% off using the coupon code RGT in the checkout. There's links to their website in the video description. Also, if you're building a few systems, there's bundles available too. Again, you can check out whokeys.com and use the coupon code RGT for 25% off the listed Windows 10 key prices. So Nvidia's RTX 40 series currently has the 4090 and 4080 graphics cards released, of course, but we all know that the reason that Nvidia have been a little more aggressive, should we say, in pricing, particularly the RTX 4080 16GB, is to allow the RTX 30 series to continue to sell through. But of course, things are going to change a lot actually over the next couple of months because AMD will be releasing the RX 7000 series. It's going to be very interesting to see how all of this shakes up, but naturally, over the next 6 to 12 months, both AMD and Nvidia will be filling out its lineup with N32 and N33 from AMD, of course, also due to release, which will naturally fill out both the low-end and mid-range from the Radeon 7000 series as well. But there is a very interesting update actually for the RTX 4060. And this is according to Wolstami, who is a Lenovo product manager. He basically works on the gaming GPU side of things. Now, I will, of course, leave a link to the Harakazi5719 tweet. I actually got this information from them, and essentially they are framing this as a guess. Now, this is machine learning translated, so obviously there could be, well, let's say a little bit of inaccuracy with machine translation, but the TLDR here is that basically the performance is going to be about on par to the 3070. So the 4060 is going to be about 20% faster than the 3060. The power consumption is much lower, as low as 150 watts. Price is going to be higher than the 3060 to the price of the 3060 Ti. It will feature DLSS 3 and it will launch next year. They also went on to say that maybe you shouldn't wait for the 4060 because ultimately you could pick up like a 3060 Ti or a 3070 and basically be in pretty much the same shape. Now, I will add a couple of asterisks. First of all, although people are reporting this as like a rumor that the person's saying, they are adding this as a guess. Now, they could just be saying it's a guess, but they really do know the specifications, but the cards are not launched for quite some time. So even if, let's just make the assumption that these specifications are 100% the targets right now, they could change a lot. Like how many RTX 4080, how many RTX 4090 updates did we cover? Because ultimately, Nvidia can like disable stuff simply by providing, I don't know, like a new BIOS or whatever. Now, it's going to be very interesting if this is true though, because honestly, it's a little lower than I expected. I kind of figured it would be more like 30 or 40% faster than the 3060. So if it's true, it is a lot lower than I expected. With that said, you do get DLSS 3 and you do get improved ray tracing performance. As for the price, again, price can change up until the last second, but I wouldn't be surprised if it is a little higher than the 3060. I mean, obviously, Nvidia have increased the price across the board, and I suspect it's going to be very interesting on how they respond when AMD are launching their products. One thing I've heard consistently about N33 is that it is cheap. Obviously, for those who don't know, it's a monolithic die. It's got 4096 shaders with the asterisk of it depends on how you count shaders, which is well outside of the topic of this video. But performance is about on par, allegedly, with between the 6800 XT to a little more. I've heard multiple performance targets, honestly, for the N33, but for the sake of this video, let's assume that it's about on par with a 6800 XT in raster. That would be very interesting. Now, personally, I think those performance targets might be a bit ambitious for N33, but I honestly don't know for certain, so again, I'm just going to say that. It's a 6800 XT, but the main thing I've heard consistently about the cards is that they are super cheap, and AMD basically want these things to be prevalent in mobile form. They obviously want them to be in desktop, and so I'm going to be very interested if this performance information as well as pricing information from Nvidia is true, on how AMD counters that. Speaking of countering though, let's move on to Nvidia and the RTX 4070 Ti, the GPU formerly known, of course, as the 12GB RTX 4080. So, there's going to be a CES event, which is a special GeForce event. Now, this is confirmed by Nvidia. They have confirmed that there is going to be an event which is going to be taking place January the 3rd. That's 8 AM PT, for those of you who want to tune in. And this is a live stream, so it's going to be on a Tuesday, January the 3rd again. And they have confirmed it's for an RTX 40 event, but obviously they've not given a name. Now, we can pretty much safely assume that they're not going to be releasing the RTX 4060 or something like that. The most obvious thing is it's going to be the 3070 Ti. We've had Kopitai 7 Kimi has confirmed that the card is going to be basically renamed. We've got WCCF Tech, and I believe they exclusively confirmed that it was going to launch January the 5th or something like that, or announced January the 5th. I don't remember off the top of my head, but long story short, credit to them. I personally think that the 4070 Ti, the pricing is going to be the most interesting part of this card. We can roughly ascertain the specs by looking at the 4080 12GB. I've heard that there may be a cut in the memory or a small change here or there, just basically one for cost reasons, but also so people can't just make a meme of it and say, see, we told you it's the 4070 all along. I personally don't know whether that's going to be the case or not. I think the pricing is going to be the most sensitive part. Obviously, at the end of the day, they are facing a lot of pressure from AMD's RDNA 3 lineup. I don't really need to tell you that. The 7900 XT is $899 US, and I have to say that I was really surprised that the XTX is only $100 more. It's going to be very interesting to see how Nvidia's marketing changes. I also wonder whether there's going to be a price cut for the RTX 4080. I just don't think they will. I don't know though. At the end of the day, the problem of course is that they need to also get rid of some of the inventory of the 30 series. So I'm going to be very interested to see what they do with cards like the 3090 and the 3080 and stuff like that. It's going to be very interesting to see Nvidia's decisions over the next couple of weeks. And anyway, last thing I want to tackle today, guys, is an interesting update for Zen 4. So obviously with Zen 4, the Ryzen 7000 series saw numerous changes. One of the big ones, of course, is that there's an entirely new platform, and it obviously means that DDR5 is going to be leveraged. Essentially, the coolers are still the same, so that's good. If you have like a decent cooler from Deepcool or Kraken or whomever, that should work, but you obviously need DDR5 memory, you need an AM4 motherboard, and that's not such a big deal if you're going on the high end, but you know, you're like, okay, well, I'm buying like, you know, a 7950X or whatever. But if you're going low end, it does make things a little more expensive, especially if you already had decent DDR4 memory. I think that's one of the reasons, honestly, that the 5800X3D is so popular at the moment. But the rumor is at the moment that AMD will be releasing a 7900, a 7700, and the 7600 non-X, so that will be 429, 329, and finally $229 US. Now this is popped up via Chili Dog on Twitter, and of course, at the end of the day, this information could be inaccurate. I have not confirmed this myself, so I do not know whether this is true or not. We have heard multiple reports, of course, that AMD are going to be releasing non-X variants, and let's just be honest, it's not like they haven't done so before. It's not like, you know, they're, I don't know, creating a CPU which suddenly starts creating spitting Brussels sprouts from your PCIe slot. It's not like this is unusual behavior from AMD. So essentially this is going to mean that up on the highest end with MSRP anyway, you're looking at over $100 saved. Of course, this does mean as well that there will be lower clock frequencies. It's going to be, again, very interesting because apparently it's only a 65 watt TDP from these processors. So that obviously is going to have quite an impact in theory anyway in the clock speed of the processors. So for example, the base clock of the 7700 non-X is allegedly 3.8 gigahertz versus 4.5 of the 7700X. But of course, when it comes to clock frequencies, they're all kind of weird anyway because of how, you know, boost and base and all of that stuff works. AMD, of course, are going to also be releasing their Vcache variant. Well, assuming that that doesn't come on hold, but at the moment it looks like it is a go. And naturally that is also going to increase the performance of the processors and potentially give them the gaming edge over Intel. It's going to be very interesting to see what AMD's pricing strategy is there, and that's putting it mildly. But, as always, we're just going to have to wait and see how it all unfolds. Take care of yourselves, guys. Have an amazing day. Bye for now.